Hey folks, how are you all doing? Let's talk about the imposter syndrome today. I've been feeling it lately. I'm building a business in the hardware domain, building a category defining product, what I hope to be category defining. And it's been challenging because I'm facing challenges I've had absolutely no idea of how to grapple with. Um, Having to learn things I've just never encountered out in the world. Having to deal with things I've never encountered in the world. And every single day, almost every single hour, I find myself questioning, especially when I face setbacks and roadblocks, which are temporary, obviously, as most setbacks are. I find myself questioning whether I'm good enough for this, whether I've got what it takes. So this is what the imposter syndrome is, right? This doubt, this fear, can manifest as even as fear in some people, as in the background anxiety when someone starts a new project, a new business, or they start a new role in a company. There are different elements to this. One is that the core could just be the internal compass that you have, right? There's a certain way that you're supposed to be in your perfect conception of yourself. There's a certain person that you are. And when you don't meet up with those expectations, you would invariably find yourself asking whether you've got what it takes to become that person. So that's one level, and obviously that manifests itself practically when you're starting a new project and you need to deal with things that you might not be up to par for. And in the process of not being good enough for that, you might then overlay those feelings onto feelings of self, right? A sense of self, whether I am, not just whether I've got good enough skills for that, but I'm good enough in general, right? So that's one component of it. And I feel it all the time. When I fail, which I do quite often, I find myself wondering that I've got what it takes to hit my lofty goals I've set for myself. And I'm going to talk about how that's a good thing, that line of questioning, that wondering about whether you're good enough. Then there's the component which kicks in when you compare yourself with other people, right? We've been conditioned, again, evolutionarily speaking, we've been conditioned to look at our fellow tribesmen or tribeswomen, tribespeople. Obviously, in modern society, it's, when I say you use the word tribe, it means people around you, people who are in your same university batch or school batch, or people that you work with, etc. Right? You would find yourself contrasting yourself, your life outcomes and trajectory with these people, and unless you're at the very top, you are going, again, that's relative, but let's just use that as an objective metric, right? Because society deems those at the very top who have lots of money and lots of material success, etc., right? So unless you're there, you're going to find yourself questioning. You're going to find yourself feeling less than people, right? So that's another part where the imposter syndrome kicks in, not being good enough. Because at this age, you're supposed to be over here in this place, but you're not, right? So what's missing? Is it something in you, something fundamentally flawed? But that's another line of questioning which gets you feeling these kinds of ways. And then there's the when you do something, when you, let's say you're working in a new job, right? When you start a new job, your boss or your manager might have a certain expectation of you, of the person who is supposed to fill that role. That is you. And you might not feel that you are hitting the expectation, the externally set expectation. So one would be, two would be, well, number one is internal expectations of who you want to be, the kind of goals that you set for yourself. Two would be kind of internal because you're comparing yourself, and also external. So it's not forced in a way. It is in a way, but also not. And the third one is a completely external, right? Because you have a certain idea of what those external expectations might be, and if you're not feeling that you're hitting the mark, then you would feel that imposter syndrome. I want to talk about how this doubt, these feelings, these set of these feelings, it's a good thing, right? Doubt creates space for questioning. It creates space for finding the answers, the best answers. Doubt with the inevitable humility that comes with it, right? Because when you doubt yourself, you are questioning whether you're good enough. And in that questioning, you are going to go towards finding solutions to what's making you feel less than. The famous Dunning-Kruger effect kicks in for people. Well, people on the lower end of it, people who feel they know a lot, but relatively speaking, don't know much. Those are the people who don't have a lot of doubt. While the people who know a lot, they have a lot of doubt because they know how much there is to learn, how much there is to know in that domain. And doubt and humility are the weapons against this bias, this almost mental conditioning that goes on in our mind, in our midst. The doubt, though, should be very well targeted. It should not be about questioning your worth as an individual. It should not be about questioning whether you can ever learn it, right? It should come with dollops of growth mindset. The two should be associated. And it might sound counterintuitive to tie the two together, to bunch these two together. But with growth mindset, the key lies in realizing that you might not be good enough and recognizing that, and then using that as a fuel to get better, to improve, to learn more. On a related note, just recently, I think a couple of days back, I saw neon lights that said that only trust your doubts on one of the All In podcasts. And there's quite immense wisdom in these words, because your doubts, again, counterintuitively, show you the way to the answers, to a better path. You should also remember that almost everyone wrote this or feels this, right? Anyone who's done anything challenging, if they have the requisite level of self-awareness, and if they're not arrogant, then they are going to feel this way. So this is a quite universal feeling. The key is to use this to motivate yourself to work harder, to learn more, and to perform better. I want to talk about some practical tips that you can use to grapple with this feeling, to manage this feeling. The first thing is to sit with it, to soak in it, to allow its effects to be normalized in your brain, in your midst, and to internalize them, recognizing that, this is the good thing. It's telling me that there's something I need to know, something I need to learn. And in learning that and knowing that, I'll become a better person, better equipped to achieve my goals, to attain my targets. Then you got to set yourself clear and well-defined and realistic targets and objectives, right? Because this doubt comes from a place of lacking tangibility. But if you set yourself tangible goals, and if you hit those goals, even if you don't, for that matter, those goals can be staggered. So it can be 50% performance, 75% performance. But when you see making real progress, and you see yourself making real progress towards those goals, you'll realize that, you know what, I can break everything down into chunks that I can digest. I don't have to sit with these ethereal feelings that I might not be able to grasp and grapple with. I can make everything concrete and tangible, and so be better equipped to deal with them. Another thing is to reframe this doubt, these feelings, even this fear, this anxiety, into a positive force. To tell yourself that you feel like this because you're starting something new, you're challenging yourself, because this is going to be challenging, right? You set yourself challenging goals, and the greater the scope of the goals, the taller the mountain that you have to climb, the greater you'll have to work, the more you'll have to push yourself, and the more you're going to feel those doubts. When people climb Mount Fuji, they don't feel that doubt as the people who climb Mount K2 would, because Fuji, relatively speaking, is pretty easy to do. But to climb K2, you have to start with that humility, with that fear, because if you don't fear, again, I'm reframing this fear as a positive force, reframing this doubt, this anxiety as a positive force over here. If you don't feel those self-emotions, you're going to take it lightly. You're not going to do what's required to attain those higher order goals. Another thing that you can do is to maintain a journal and track your progress and accomplishments, and even write down your setbacks and how some of the other projects that you're taking on, long-term projects too, they're panned out, right? You can go back to this while you're starting a new project, and you can see that you were in this situation before, but you start something and you felt that, oh, am I good enough? And then you broke it down in a plan, an action plan. Now, you don't have to follow the plan completely, because plans, by their very nature, they change, especially when you're doing something brand new. But the point of a plan is to give you a sense of a direction, and to give you that tangibility that you lack so much in the start of starting something new. And leaving, I will share a few choice quotes. For example, a sucker for good quotes, and there were some really good ones that I was able to find from my book of quotes. So here are some of them. Doubt is an uncomfortable condition, but certainty is a ridiculous one. Voltaire. And your doubt can become a good quality if you train it. It must become knowing. It must become criticism. Ask it whenever it wants to spoil something for you, why something is ugly. Demand proofs from it. Test it, and you'll find it perhaps bewildered and embarrassed, perhaps also protesting. But don't give in. Insist on arguments and act in this way, attentive and persistent every single time. And the day will come when, instead of being a destroyer, it will become one of your best workers, perhaps the most intelligent of all the ones that are building your life. By Rainer Maria Rilke from the book Letters to a Young Poet. This is one of my favorite ones because it talks about reframing doubts as one of your great allies. And I still do see them as a great ally. Same with fear, same with the negative, quote unquote, negative emotions that you might be feeling. You can use them, you can reframe them into becoming your greatest allies. There's nothing negative, only things that we allow to become negative, or we deem to be negative. There's no heaven or hell, only your mind makes it so, as Milton so immortally remarked. And now, one by one of the great and the wise philosopher Will Smith. I know, but this is a good one. I keep going because I doubt myself. It drives me to be better. I've learned that the mastery of self-doubt is the key to success. It's like being animated by the love of a woman, the need to be worthy of her. Okay. The greater the artist, the greater the doubt. Perfect confidence is granted to the less talented as a consolation prize. Robert Hughes from Modernism's Patriarch. And to end, a line from my absolute favorite poem. If you can keep your head when all above you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for the doubting too, then you're a man, my son. So keep doubting, keep questioning, keep learning, keep improving, keep growing, and keep hitting your goals. Cheers. Thanks for your time.